Can can you start off by telling us a little bit about your circumstances before you left Chile? What you were doing, what your work was, and the reasons for leaving.
Well, try to make a story short. I left Chile in 75, 2 years after the coup, but before that I was in the Chilean Air Force. I was an NCO, a corporal, and the 3 years leading to the coup, when Allende was elected, things changed in Chile politically, outside in the civilian world, and within the armed forces. There were changes in which people didn't talk openly about Allende, the government, and I think what I saw was the beginning of a careful programming of members of the Air Force in the way that they should be careful when they went out to their neighborhoods. And closer to the coup in 73, they were told some people not to wear a uniform, to go in civils, carry a pistol maybe, to protect themselves. And when the coup came, everybody knows the story, I was inside in the base doing my usual work, and that morning I woke up quite early because I lived in the singles quarters, and I woke up earlier before my usual time, and the Air Force Academy, where they prepare the pilots, that was taken over by the cadets. So I looked through the window and I saw these guys armed on top of the roofs and walking about. That was the beginning of the coup within our base. And then we went the normal time, 8 a.m. to sort of a formation and to take account of people, and I never went out in the street before or after the coup. You know, people went searching for weapons or whatever before the coup, and after the coup they went in different missions, and I stayed always within the base because I was taking care of my area of work, about 15 planes that I was in charge of from the maintenance point of view. And then one heard the stories that people told when they came back from neighborhoods, searching, arresting people. Some of them were really scary. I was glad I wasn't one of them, somehow. And then the months went by with the same things happening, and on the 12th of October, I was arrested myself, together with another, I think, 12 other friends. We were called up in the morning at 8 a.m., a long list by the intelligence officer, and we were given until midday to be ready to get together in a designated place. Okay, so we knew that was it, because many friends had disappeared before, and we later heard they'd been arrested, and they were sent to the infamous Academy of War from the Air Force in Las Condes, higher up in town. So we were taken in a bus, blindfolded, hands wrapped behind our backs, and that's it, until we were left at the Academy of War and still blindfolded in a queue going to downstairs in a basement where we were asked for our names, former ranks. We had already been discharged from the Air Force, and we were left in a long corridor standing against a wall. Slowly you sort of lose or track of time, and you don't realize whether it's still daytime or night. And sometimes you heard people walking behind you, touching your shoulder. Are you so and so? No. Oh, don't worry, it's not your turn. So you think so many things, I cannot remember now, but you think what's going to happen, and then when you hear now and then people, shouts, and even women they had in that place crying, shouting because of the techniques they used on interrogation. Well, it was a sad time for all of us from the Air Force, and after a few weeks of the same, we were taken back to the Air Force base, El Bosque, in one section where they had a kind of a small academy for NCOs. When they went from one rank to another, to the next one, they had to study, and we were left in the classrooms, about 6 or 9 per classroom, sitting all the time, facing the wall, totally isolated, and sleeping on the floor, bare floor. And it was October, end of October, November perhaps, and it wasn't very cold, springtime, so we had to sleep like that. No pillow, no blanket, nothing, almost exposed to the elements. And after a while, in my particular case, I was taken back to the Academy of War for more questioning. And when I came back about 3 days later, I noticed that all the people in the classrooms were talking to each other. And all the benches were grouped in the middle, and they were sitting around with newspapers. I said, what happened? So when I went back to the classroom where I was before, they told me that the day that I was taken out, a few minutes later they heard a shot, and they thought it was me. and they told me that they heard that another guy was killed by a guard who was playing with his machine gun. You know, the people who are looking after people get bored as well, because they cannot talk to anybody. And was it an accident? You never know. And because of that, they lifted the state of no communication, no talking they had in every sort of cell room, and they were free to talk. And after a while, we were allowed visits, and our families came to visit us. They were told where we were. They were looking for us everywhere, obviously. And we had we were wearing the same clothes we had when we were first arrested. No cleaning, no shaving, eating very little food. We had, I don't know what state we had. When the family saw us coming in to the visitors area, they set up for us, or for them. We saw the eyes of the family looking at us, some of them sort of covering their eyes. We were really like beggars, I suppose, skinny, some walking badly, perhaps from after effects of interrogation. And then we talked to our families. They brought up something, clean clothes and reading material, cigarettes, whatever. And we spent some time there. And before the end of the year, we were transferred to jail, just a normal jail. And one of the areas of the jail was set up for us, for the political prisoners, from the armed forces. They were from the Air Force, from the Army, maybe one or two from the Navy, from the uniformed police, carabineros, and from the civilian police, detectives. And we were all mixed up in this area, and we were sort of free, in inverted commas, from interrogation. And then we had regular visits, but now and then they took people back for more questioning and came back, some of them in a sorry state. So time passed and we spent New Year, 74 came, and then sort of after General Bachelet died, he died there on the 12th of March, 74, we were given our sentences. We were asked to contact our lawyers, solicitors, because there was a council of war coming up to judge our actions during the coup and before the coup. So we were given a list of sentences. One evening we were called to another room somewhere, and we were given the proposed sentence requested by the Council of War. And then we were actually taken to the Council of War in the Academy of War, where we were interrogated. The same area was converted into a sort of a court. Eventually, we got our final sentences. Some people were sentenced to death. I got 25 years and 2 days, 2 different sentences, 15 and 25, 15 and 10. And then there was nothing to do after that. The future was totally uncertain. We were talking and talking, what's going to happen, are we going to spend the time here, are they going to send us to another prison outside Santiago, banishment inside the country? We didn't know.
What were the charges?
Well, the charges was 2 charges really. In most cases the common charge was treason, high treason, because we supported the government of Salvador Allende and we didn't join the coup.
So at the time you were an overt supporter of the Allende government?
Not overt, but they had their suspicions, the way we acted. We didn't talk politics because it wasn't allowed, but there were people sort of inciting, so-called friends, perhaps spying for intelligence. And some of us were studying in the evenings after work in the technical university, which was the sort of a very left-wing university. And that was a sin. We shouldn't do that. And the second charge that I had was plotting to organize attacks within the Air Force, planning to open the doors to the extremists that were going to take over the Air Force, etc. All made up charges, obviously, because nothing was proven at all. And that was and the so-called leaders, they got the sentence to death that was later changed into life imprisonment. So in the meantime, we were in another prison, third prison, sort of more what was the word? Sort of decent in a way. That was set up for people like us who have been sentenced to be sent somewhere else, probably afterwards. And the year 75 came. That was the second Christmas and New Year in prison. And early in the year, the military decided to issue a decree, Decree 504, that allowed prisoners who had been sentenced to any sentence by a tribunal and had possession of a visa to travel to any country and to stay away the country for good, exile. And then in my case, most of us from the Air Force got a choice to come to any country in the common market at the time. I think there were 7 countries, including the UK. And in my particular case, a group of people from Cambridge, from Amnesty, some lords and sirs and people who were part of the think tank of the Labour government at the time, Callahan, they took charge of my case. And they contacted my family in Santiago through the embassy. And they adopted me, and I said, okay, I'll go to England. Because English was a good help, because when I was studying in Panama and when I joined the Air Force, I learned English there. And it was a good choice at the time, still was, I still think it is. And I came over in 75, summer of 75, the hot summer, end of August that year. And my brother, younger brother, Jorge, he arrived earlier, about a couple of months or 3 months earlier, in Cambridge as well. So that's how I ended up in Cambridge, where I stayed 34 years until I decided to return to Chile in 2008.
Okay. So just, we'll get to that. Your time when you were in prison in Chile, was that different? Was there a difference actually inside the prison between the political prisoners in the way people who were military people were treated, or how other prisoners perceived you? Was there a notable difference between the military political prisoners and the non-military?
Well, at the beginning, in the first jail, we were kept separate from the other prisoners, the common prisoners, criminals, whatever. There was a special sort of area with about 12 cells that took 8 people, 9 people, and we were all mixed up with the other guys from the armed forces. But later on, some civilians arrived. Some politicians, some common people like students, workers, etc. But they noticed that we were obviously from the Air Force, and these people opposed the coup and they're arrested and by their own comrades, and our story was known within the prison. And later on, in the last prison where we stayed before leaving the country, there were all kinds of political prisoners from all walks of life, civilian mainly, and the people from the armed forces. And we were all mixed up without any problem. There were some people who were members of political parties, the top echelons of the parties, and sort of the dean of the university where we were studying, the technical university, was also there with us. And it was a good, in a way, it was a good mixture of people, because although we had our differences, politically speaking, within the guys on the Air Force, we didn't have a political party. We didn't belong to any left-wing party, but we met a lot of people from the parties that supported the government, the Popular Unity Coalition. And we talked about why things happen. Was it good? Was it bad? Was the Allende government good or bad? I mean, there were discussions that were very fruitful for, in my case, particular case, for me to understand how things worked, not taking part into active politics during the 3 years of Allende. It was good. We had a good mixture, I think, of people, and we got on well. Well, when Allende was elected, I was happy. Many friends, some of them were later arrested, we were happy about the change of so many years of governments that did nothing for the people. I mean, the economy of the country in those years was totally different to what it is now, and there was a lot of poverty. Even the armed forces had a very low salary, and the armed forces complained during the previous government, before Allende, about salaries, something never seen before. So when Allende was elected, we were happy. I was happy personally, and then we saw the honeymoon period that all presidents have. Everybody celebrating the country, the poor people celebrating, and some rich people fled the country because they thought the Russian tanks were coming in, and Fidel, etc., to take everything from them, their homes and money, etc. But the people in general were happy, and the first year was sort of okay, probably, but along the time, you could see that things were changing, perhaps too fast for what the president's plans were. In those times, the government was 6 years in power, so it's a long time, and by the second year, there were problems, shortages of things. Inflation started to increase quite fast. There was money in people's pockets, but there were no goods. And many things were set up to feed people, to get goods to the shops. The right wing were also helping. Chile is a long country, and goods have to be transported by road. And the owners of the lorries staged strikes. There was no food going anywhere. And international aid was suspended as well. So there was a shortage of many vital things.
So, suspended by who?
Well, you look at the history books, the church committee in the American Senate after the coup, they said the CIA, ITT, big international company, they paid some parties on the right and even the Christian Democrats some money to boycott, to help the boycott, And even before the election, they paid the Christian Democrats to have a campaign of terror before the elections to prevent Allende from being elected. In the end, on the second year and third year, the situation was really bad. Seeing from with my eyes from the Air Force, we saw that things were changing within the Air Force as well, and it affected us. The kind of shortages that affected the population affected us from the point of view of having less spare parts, and we had planes not flying because of they didn't have the spares, etc. And also in general, the country was slowly drifting into a state of I don't know, chaos. Some extreme parties on the left wanted to take over the factories in the countryside. The reform of the system caused problems to the big landowners who became, engaged in a war against the government. So Allende was in a very difficult position at the time, and there were all kinds of demos everywhere supporting the government because the people knew it was provoked by foreign powers and the powers within the country.
Was it obvious that there was going to be a coup, or was it a total surprise?
I don't think it was a surprise for most people. In many places, the only thing that was missing was a banner, "The coup is coming," within the bases. So we could tell things were going to happen. We didn't know when. For example, every winter in Santiago, we went to Antofagasta in the north, which is where the Tropic of Capricorn begins, after the good weather, to continue with the flights, to train the pilots. And in that base, you saw things also happening. That is the base where the Hawker Hunters, the planes that bombed the Moneda Palace, took off from. You could see the guys were practicing, bombing with rockets. And we came back to Santiago after 3 months. In Antofagasta, we came back to Santiago on the 9th of September, on the weekend. And the coup was on a Tuesday, the 11th. So Monday morning, we had a normal working day, or the whole Monday rather, and then on Monday night we went to sleep as usual, those who lived in the base. And as I said before, we had these guys that took over the base, the cadets. And that was the beginning of the coup. And that was the only confirmation that the coup was happening. We knew it was coming, but we couldn't guess when. Thanks to these people from Amnesty who adopted me while I was in prison, a group of people from Newnham Labour Party ward, Lord Caldor, I forget the names, but very nice people. I went to see them when I arrived. And I was very happy to come to Cambridge. Not that I knew a lot about Cambridge, but to come to England was a good thing. I was looking forward to. But when I came to Cambridge, we arrived, those people who came to England from prison, a big group arrived, about 20 or something. And we arrived late in the evening on the 26th of August, I think, 74, 75. And we stayed in a hotel in Shepherd's Bush in London. And the next day, my brother, who was already there, we sort of saw each other after all the time he was here. It was very emotional. And then the next day, we came to Cambridge on the coach through the old A10. The coach was full of people. There were people standing. I was looking at the countryside, beautiful landscape, all green compared to South America, to Chile, until we arrived in Cambridge. And about midday, to a house of a Chilean Bolivian couple that my brother became friends with, and we had lunch. We talked about this and that. And then they told me that everybody went round on a bike, and my brother had a bike for me. So when I said, okay, I want to go around Cambridge. Okay, let's go, said my brother. No, I want to go on my own. I want to feel free. So when I said, have you got a map of Cambridge or something? And I saw these green spots everywhere, parks and parks and more parks. And I said, I want to go to one of these parks. I was in Wider Street, off Mill Road, Hooper Street. And then I said, I'll go to that park called Newnham. In those time I said Newnham. And then I went out and they said, always right on your left. Remember that? Okay. I went to Newnham Park and I went over that bridge there is in after Lensfield Road. I forget the name of the other road. And then I saw cows in there. What a park! And then I left my bike on the grass, and there were some people walking, and they saw me. This crazy foreigner he went onto the grass, he jumped off the bike, and landed on my back, with my arms stretched and looking at the sky, free. I couldn't believe that, smelling the grass and etc. And I stayed there for about 10 minutes. Then I stood up again and I went round the path with my bike, walking along and looking at the park, and I felt so good after almost 2 years in prison, looking at a square of sky above my head. And I was so happy, and I came back to the place. I found it where I was in Hooper Street, and I told them of my adventure. They said, we suppose we understand the feeling, not having been detained ourselves, but it felt good. I wasn't shocked like some people was initially, because of the simple reason that I am a guy who goes to the pictures a lot. And I really enjoyed the British movies from the time, all those really good pictures after the war, you know, when they were rebuilding Britain, and all these British actors from those times. And there were some very realistic movies and some TV series that I saw in Chilean TV that showed something of the life of the people, not like EastEnders or something like that. But I had an idea, and having read a lot, because I like reading as well, having read a lot about England, about the UK, and when I knew I was coming to Cambridge, I got something to read about as well. And when I came to Cambridge, that was cosmopolitan, not as it is now. It is more cosmopolitan now than it was in those times. But walking about and talking to the people, because I was always talking to people to practice, you know, and practice the language. I felt at home, really. I felt quite well. Maybe because I was on my own, apart from my brother, and I was always independent from the family. I mean, our family is very close together, but this was a different situation. I knew that I had a one-way ticket, no return ticket, no return date, so I had to make the best of my time here. And I went round Cambridge, looking, exploring it, going to the shops, going to the supermarkets, the parks, etc. And then I spent some time studying English at the Bell School of Languages next to Adam Brooks. And that was a good thing to see all the people, different people. And after a while, the people decided I was ready to take the English exam. So I went to a small school in Trumpington Road, near Lensfield Road, in the corner, almost in the corner, and I took the exam. And then the rest was just learn some more words. When those people in Cambridge who adopted me got in touch with my family, they sent a letter in English, obviously, and it was smuggled into the prison in something. And then I read it later on after my family left because I couldn't read it there in front of the guards. I read it. Wow, fantastic. So the next visit, I found a way to write long, long letters smuggled in cigarettes. I emptied the cigarettes and I folded copy paper, letter size, which is the size they use in English, folded it in three along the length and wrote in 3 columns and rolled them, and they fitted exactly into an empty cigarette. And I gave my father a packet with about 10 cigarettes full of letters telling him not to smoke those. They were a different brand, just in case. And those letters came here. And we got replies, and they were smuggled by my parents in a different way. And I had a good sort of exchange of letters with these people until I got my visa to come to England, which I saw officially because it was something official. I saw it. They took it for me. I had to keep it. Then we got our passports, etc. Now, when we arrived here, we had these people helping us. The English committee. There were people from language schools allocating people into different schools to learn English, and other people helping us with social security, school, housing. In my particular case, I found a flat to share with my brother, and we spent some time in Harvey Road until we settled down well. I spent about a year helping other people, other Chileans that arrived, because I knew the system, which was good to me to help them to learn the system. Mm-hmm. And then it was really good to have people like local people to help us to do things. Apart from the Chileans who were here earlier, who also knew how to do things, how to go about, and to get to find a flat, to find a job later on, etc.
What was the first job that you had here?
Well, the only one that I had for 30 years. I was working in the science park for 30 years in an international company. I found that job by pure chance, really, because what do I know? I was thinking that I can use to find a job. Okay, aircraft electronics. whoa, you could not find that job in the job center. So I applied to British Airways because they needed people who work on the 747s. And I went to 3 interviews. And I ended up on the short list because I studied in the American Air Force for 6 months in Panama, and my experience in the Chilean Air Force. So that helped me to get to the short list. So when they called me for the final interview in Heathrow, I didn't fail. The problem was I didn't have a status in the UK, like a permanent resident, or I didn't even have a passport because the Chilean passport was not renewable. So thanks for that, and it was good. So I came back to Cambridge, and then I couldn't work in Marshalls because Marshalls, being a private airport, they dealt with military planes as well. So one day at the Central Library, I used to go there every day to read the papers, and I found this, the local paper, the Cambridge Evening News, and the last pages, the jobs, I was looking at the jobs, and they wanted somebody to test instruments in the Science Park, in a small company. It was a Friday. I rang them, and they said, could you come tomorrow? Because we do overtime on Saturday, so it's quiet, we can look around. Okay. So the next day, I went early in the morning. I met the manager, the production manager, and he showed me around. Oh, I can do that. It was so easy. I read the circuit diagrams. He was testing me. Can you read this? Yes. Okay. This is really nice, he said, that you can do all that. But the problem is the job is already taken. Because there was an old ad. Okay. But if you like to fill in a form, okay, I filled in a form. And 2 weeks later, I get a letter from the company with a contract to sign. I said, what? They were offering the same position that I was applying for, and then it was about middle of June, 77. And then I sent the letter back, signed, and I said I'd like to start on the 4th of July, Monday. So I went there on the 4th of July, and that was the first day of 30 years I spent in the company.
You were part of a Chilean dance group. What are your memories of that group, and how important was it to the community in Chile? Yeah, the Chilean community.
Dances was really important. It was a link that everybody had with Chile, with the music, with the customs, with the dances. When I arrived in 77, the group was very new. It was in its infancy, and they needed more people. The thing that made me laugh at the beginning was when they were working on a play as well. And then it was Monica and Raquel, 2 ladies who were actresses in Chile, and they were organizing a play to show along with the dances. And the play was about the coup. And when they saw me, this tall guy, they said, this is the guy we need. You will play an army guy. On the play, I was going to kick the people myself. So we had the play. It was quite good. We showed that around England in a few places, in London, in Cambridge, Liverpool, etc., together with the dances. But what lasted for so many years, and a lot of people was part of it, is the group of dances. I used to dance the music from the north, all this colorful music with colorful ponchos and panpipes and everything. That was beautiful. It was really beautiful. And we went around the country as well, as far as Edinburgh, Liverpool, etc. We supported the miners during the strike. We went to the social clubs they had in Selby, I think, places like that. We danced even at the Guildhall once, some old people homes in Cambridge, Brighton. It was beautiful for us to go to other places to show our culture and to show the local Chileans what we did in Cambridge. It was fantastic. Every Sunday we had our rehearsals, and I had to produce a tape all the time because all the dances, the order of dances and the number of songs needed were different. So I had a tape for every occasion, but it was never used more than once. I had to do a full tape every time. The records, LPs at the time, the vinyls were getting worn out of so many copying to tape. But it was beautiful. It was really, really nice. Who started the group?
Yeah.
Well, the group was, I think, Carlos Toranzos was having a go to start some kind of a group of dances, and then Manuel Cuervo, he became the director of the group. He was teaching us all those dances, and we got music from different people. Some people had LPs, and we got, from the Condor Passes, which is a well-known tune, originally from the Andes, not Simon & Garfunkel. And then we had some people got music from Chile as well, tapes or LPs, and we managed to get all the costumes we needed, ponchos and spurs and boots and whatever. In my particular case, I needed a central area costume, which was a suit with a short jacket to your waist. So the best place for that was Oxfam. To get a dark suit and then arrange the jacket to become shorter and with a lot of buttons on the sleeves and etc. It was a very sort of a professional way because people enjoyed it. The other Chileans who saw it, they enjoyed the group, the performances, and we enjoyed them as well. We had to, sometimes I had to announce the next dance, or somebody else, depending who was there, and I think we were quite happy, and as time went by, the kids grew up, some went to university, they left the group. The group was getting smaller, and no new people came to Cambridge who wanted to join. And some of people couldn't make it. I couldn't make it in a few times because of my job. I had to travel abroad, so I couldn't make it to some performances. Until it sort of, we said, okay, that's enough. Sorry to see you go, but we had to stop.
How long did it run for?
Oh, I don't know, middle 80s, probably. The social part of our life in Cambridge, it was quite good. I remember really well when those people invaded my big flat in Harvey Road on Saturdays, and they came with beer and wine and music and had a party in my flat. I had a flat with a big lounge, and we were dancing there. It was a basement flat, in a big house that we didn't make any noise that was heard outside. So we had overnight parties, the young people at the time, and we celebrated New Year, Christmas, birthdays, just a party to have a party, etc. And sometimes we had when I moved away from that flat and I moved to King Hedges area, we went to different places to have a New Year's party, but we couldn't have it till late. Because, up to midnight that was okay, maybe at 1 a.m. And we had a lot of social events as well. We had, apart from having rehearsals in different places for the group of dancers, sometimes we used the same places to have a party, a New Year party, a Christmas party. Christmas parties were okay because the kids were small, but they still recognized Father Christmas, the guy who was behind the beard. And it was nice because everybody liked to get together, and there were quite a few people who played guitar, and we were singing to Chilean tunes from our times, and we had some music that we danced to all the time, like Eloise, really long tune, everybody dancing and jumping about. That was the hymn of the parties of the Chileans. Well, there are two stories that come to mind. One was a guy who was working in the joint working group in London, the people who received the Chileans. I forget the surname, but he was called Gordon, and he was sort of spying for somebody, say, I don't know, the government, British government, or etc. He was a friendly guy, came round to visit you. He spoke Spanish, and really nice guy, pat on the back, let's have a pint, whatever. The kind of guy you tell everything to. But there was another one, more dramatic, that was, I think must have been early in the 80s. A Chilean guy who was paid by the Chilean embassy in London to spy. And the guy was afraid, or the guy didn't want to do it anymore when they offered him a gun to carry, a pistol or something. And the guy didn't want to do it, and he went to the BBC to report it. And they said to him, okay, we need proof. We cannot just publish what you just told us without any proof. And I think they fitted him with a recorder, concealed recorder, and he went back to the guy, his contact, and he recorded everything. And that was in the news at the time. So I suppose it could be found. There was no internet in that time, obviously, but some trace of news could be found on the BBC archives or the local press. But I don't remember exactly the year when it happened, but it was news. And it was said that the Army Intelligence, or DINA, was located in a shop in Brussels, Chilean handicraft shop in Brussels for Europe. So you hear all those rumors, obviously. I cannot confirm because I never saw that, but you hear people talking about things like that.
So was there ever any fear that there'd be repercussions here, that people were looking, but was there ever any worry that that they'd go one step further? Someone with a gun who didn't go to the BBC.
Well, when we heard what happened in Washington when they killed Letelier near the American Congress in Pennsylvania Avenue, they blew his car with his secretary, Moffitt. I mean, and what happened in Argentina, they killed General Prat, who was the head of the army during Allende, and they put a bomb in Italy to a Christian Democrat, a prominent Christian Democrat, and they survived. And then we heard of Operation Condor. I think we felt safe here. I never had any. I wasn't looking around my back when we had meetings with the committees in Liverpool, in London, wherever, that people knew about. We had to travel to those meetings. I'm just talking about meetings of committees, Chilean committees, not political parties, because I was never a member of any political party. So I never went to a Socialist Party meeting or things like that. But I wasn't afraid, I wasn't thinking something's going to happen to us here. No, not really.
Did you miss Chile in this time? Or at what point did you consider that England was your home, if at any point?
It was difficult to tell, because I wasn't allowed to go back to Chile at all, okay? And my home, or my second home, or second started life was here, in Cambridge. But before the dictatorship announced the end of exile, that was August '88, the dictatorship starting issuing lists of people who could return to the country. Every month we were looking forward to our names to appear in those lists. Some people in Cambridge saw their names and they went to Chile to visit their family, but my name never came up. And I remember I was in Moscow one night on a business trip. I was listening to the BBC World Service before going to sleep, and I was reading a book, and I was so concentrated on the book that I missed the news at midnight, and I only heard Pinochet, Chile. I said, what? Too late. I had to wait until 1 o'clock to listen to the news again, and it said that exile had finished in Chile from the 31st of August that year, and that meant I could return to Chile. But I was in Moscow. I couldn't tell anybody in Chile. I couldn't ring. In those times, during the USSR, you couldn't just take the telephone in the hotel and dial a long number abroad. So I had to wait 2 more weeks until I finished what I was doing. When I came back to Cambridge, and my phone was ringing in the flat. It was my sister from Chile. I've been ringing you every night to tell you the news. And we talked for a long while. And then, in the end, I got a long leave from the company to go to Chile for 3 months. And I went middle of December till the February, end of February. And I spent almost 3 months with the family and friends. I arrived in the summer, middle of December. That was fantastic. That was the best news I ever had when I was here, to see my family again. My father sadly was gone before that time, but I saw my mom and brothers and sisters, new family as well, because sisters got married. I had nephews, I was always in touch with them. I knew that we had the pictures, we exchanged cassettes. I told them of my trips. I remember I sent a bunch of photographs labeled 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. And I was telling them on the cassette what I was doing in each of the pictures, Tokyo, Melbourne, whatever. And they sent me cassettes, everybody talking to me as well. That was fantastic. So when we got together with the family, I knew what they were doing, as if I left them yesterday. It was beautiful to see them again.
Was there ever a desire to make the return to Chile permanent?
Not really, because I was really practical from that point of view. Your heart wants you to go back. But I was thinking, I was maybe nearly middle 40s or something, first time I went. And I thought if I go back now, I would lose whatever pension I may get from work in Cambridge. And if I go back to Chile, I will not be able to do any job because, you know, Chile being a young country, the average age for work is quite young. You are an old man at 40. I couldn't find a job. And the job situation in Chile was different to what it was before. You couldn't make a career. I was making a career here. So when I came back to Cambridge, I didn't promise my family I will move back to Chile next year. I said I come and see you every year, which I did. I went every single summer, Chilean summer, for a month. 5 weeks from Christmas to end of January, until I returned in 2008.
And so now you're living permanently in Chile?
Now living permanently in Chile, and I come to Cambridge for usually 2 months every Chilean winter, which is not very nice. Nice for me, but nice for the people who are here. When it is a proper summer,
yeah,
it is nice. Yeah, I really enjoy it because I left many friends here, friends from the company as well. I see them, I go to the company in the science park to say hello. There are still people from my time, and the people who have left, I see them as well. So it's quite nice to have friends in both places. And you have to think that I spent, by the time I left, more than half of my life here. So I got to know a lot of people better than my brothers and sisters that I left behind.
Yeah.
Now I'm making up time with them there. Well, I'm really, really happy to talk to you because it was good to bring up all those memories, bringing them out. I always talk to my friends here when I come to visit in the last few years about the good times we had, the group of dancers, the play, the people who have sadly left us, and the people who moved to other places. There are a lot of people in Chile now, back in Chile for good, and we get together there and we talk about our time in Cambridge. Yeah. I love memories because I had good memories from my time in Cambridge. I have really good memories that I don't want to forget about, both from the Chilean point of view, sharing time with the Chilean community here, and from the work point of view, because thanks to my job, I went around the world. Mm-hmm. I went to places that nobody will go as a tourist, even if they had the money. So it was a good time that I had here. I'm really happy to have landed in the UK in '75, and I'm really, really grateful for the opportunity that I had to continue my life here after the coup. Really happy. And I thank everybody who we saw in the party on the 27th of July. Those people really helped us, and some people didn't make it to the party, but I still thank them because they were really good people. And I know that one or two have gone, unfortunately. That's life, but I love them.
Great.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Well, thank you.
Thank you so
very
much.